Good evening. It is time for today's Tax Talk. I'm your host. I'm attorney Stephen Leahy. It is Thursday, October 14th. I know that well because October 15th is the next deadline. It's the extension deadline for filing your tax return. So it's Thursday, October 14th, year of our Lord 2021. We're going to kind of talk about expand what we talked about yesterday, because there's a lot of talk about the $600 and the cash app reporting. And I think there's a lot of misinformation. And there's even misinformation from people trying to tell you that there's other misinformation. Let's find out what that means. Won't you join us? Well, yesterday we had some issues with with my technology. So today I hope to have that problem fixed. But we were talking about the American Families Plan, the Biden administration's American Families Plan, and lots of talk about the bank statements and whether they're going to get the bank statements, that it's false, that they got to report everything and every single transaction, and so they say that that's false. Today, what we're going to talk about is the American Rescue Plan. Here's the problem here's the difference. The American Families Plan, that hasn't been passed yet. And that's why I'm objecting to all of this. We can still change that. The American Rescue Plan, well, that's already been passed. That passed in March, and this little known item was in that bill. We always talk about you got to pass it to find out what's in it, because nobody wants to tell you what's in it, because if they tell you what's in it, you're going to be against it, and they don't want you to be against it. They have their way. They have their plan. Their plan is to get as much money as they can and pass it around, and to do that, they have to get it somewhere, and the way they're going to get it is you. I know they tell you they're going to get it from the wealthy. They're going to get it from the tax gap. They're going to get it from current crypto. The one true thing is that they are going to get it from the tax gap. But what they don't tell you, and they make it look like, well, the tax gap are these wealthy people, and that's where we're going to get it. No, they're going to stop. They're going to shrink the tax gap on your shoulders. That's just the truth. That's the way it's going to work. The way they can do this is to tighten the screws on all of us and make sure not a dime gets by without them getting their end. And this is what the problem is. And so I wanted to talk about this gap, or the cash app reporting, because again, a lot of this is misreporting for whatever reason. I'm not sure why that is, but let's see where we are here. So let me go into the story. Okay. So first, I'm going to talk about the IRS. And it was a couple weeks ago we talked about these information reports, all the 1099s that are out there now. And this really started in 2011. So let's read. This is from the irs.gov website. The IRS uses third-party information reporting on forms in the 1099 series to increase voluntary compliance and improve collections. Is it voluntary if they force you to do it? I don't know. Beginning in 2011, legislation requires reporting of income in two areas: payment cards, credit, debit, certain electronic transactions, and securities basis reporting. Now, the basis reporting is actually sometimes can be a good thing for people, and we're going to talk about that because this is where it comes in. The links below take you to forms, instructions. And I don't think I'm going to have time today to bring up the 1099K instructions and read who has to get these. When does a company have to send these reports, these information reports? Now the 1099K. And so really that's the issue, right? So this was yesterday I brought this up that Candace Owens had tweeted this out. The Biden administration is attempting to empower the IRS to monitor every single withdrawal, deposit, and transaction you make from your personal banking accounts, PayPal, Venmo, etc. And they labeled this mostly false. If it were me labeling this, I'd have to say that's mostly true. It's not all true because it's not everyone. It's not every single one. And so it's not totally true, but it's mostly true. And I'll tell you why that is in just a moment. So here's another one. Yes, from Verify. Yes, users of Cash Apps will get a 1099 form in annual payments if annual payments are over $600. But that doesn't mean you'll pay extra taxes. So that's why they say this is false. Yeah, well, you won't pay taxes on all of that money. But here's this is where the problem comes in. Being a gentleman who, I use that term loosely, obviously, who helps people with IRS problems, I have seen this, right? So for instance, someone gets a 1099 from their brokerage of 1099K, and they don't know what it is and they don't report it, or they don't get it. They don't get it at their house for some reason, and this happens a lot, and so they don't report on it. And so what happens is 3 months, 6 months, a year, maybe longer later. Actually, they've been pretty good because they have the computer program now that matches. So when someone sends you a 1099 to you for your tax purposes, they also send it to the IRS, right? So when I pull transcripts, we get copies of all that. We know what the IRS has for you, and that's when we go to prepare your tax returns. So many of my clients haven't filed in a couple of years, and so we go back and we get this information and make sure that we capture all the reported income. And so a lot of times, again, people don't get this. But what will happen is they'll get a notice from the IRS called a deficiency notice. And the IRS will say, well, listen, this is what you said on your tax return. And then this is what we found based on this 1099 that someone sent us that you did not report. And based on this 1099 that someone sent us and you did not report, your new tax, this is what you said your tax is, this is what your new tax is. And then you have an opportunity to object. Now, hopefully you get that letter and that you object. Many people don't even open the mail from the IRS. They're afraid of it and they don't open it, or they don't know, what that all means, because it is kind of legalese. And so they don't respond or for whatever reason. And then the IRS assesses a tax against you based on that information form that they received. And that's going to be the same thing here, right? That they're going to get these. So, many people use Venmo or these other outfits, PayPal, Zelle, these others, Cash App, in order to amongst themselves. So I go to dinner. I pay for dinner. Everybody sends me the Venmo and pays me back. Dinner ain't cheap, right? So you have 4 or 5 people, right? Do that a couple times a year. Am I going to get more than $600? Well, yeah, I'm probably going to get more than $600. And maybe I do sell some things that maybe are taxable, and that's in there too. And then the IRS these outfits, the third-party reporting, that's what they're called, third-party reporting. They send me a 1099K. And now it's on my shoulders to tell them that it's not taxable. So when they say in this report, let me go back here. When they say here but that doesn't mean you owe extra taxes, that's true. But the onus is on you to prove that you don't owe any extra taxes, right? They have the information that shows that you did receive this money. What now you are going to have to say that wasn't taxable. That was from lunch. That was from dinner. That was a gift from my mom. That was whatever it was. And it's the same thing with, now again, this is something different because this has already passed. So let's just read this because I could. Social media users have claimed anyone with more than $600 in annual transactions from Cash App will now face a new tax. It's not true. I just explained to you. You may not face a new tax, but the onus is on you to prove it. And if you don't get it or you don't file it or you don't, the IRS is going to assess a new tax against you. And now you're going to fight the IRS. Now, some years ago, a couple years ago, right, we had the tax reformation bill. I think it was 2017 under Trump. And one of the goals of that bill was to uncomplicate tax returns, right? And sometimes they say, well, we can put it on half a page. More like a page. And then, we're going to get rid of all the deductions and we're going to give you a larger standard deduction so you don't have to take these deductions. And it's going to make doing your tax return so much easier. Well, if you use any of these accounts, if you have a bank account, right? If you use these, and more and more everybody does, maybe now less and less, then now your tax return just got more complicated. Right? Because you can't do a simple return. You have to account for these 1099s. And you have to say, well, yes, they reported that I did $7,000 from Venmo, but $400 was for my mother. And again, you have to explain it. Where does that money come from? How much is taxable and how much is not taxable? Because the IRS is going to assume it's all taxable. And you're going to have to prove it's not taxable. And when they say, well, it's not every single transaction, it comes down to every single transaction because some might be taxable, some might not be taxable. Which ones? That's up to you to prove. It's always up to you to prove to the IRS what they call substantiation. Okay, so let's go on. Some social media users have criticized the Biden administration, Internal Revenue Service, and U.S. Treasury, claiming a new tax will be placed on people who used cash apps to process transactions. That is because 1099-K form will be sent out to app users who receive more than $600 in total transactions beginning in 2022. So I'm going to switch over to this now. I already said they uses this third-party transactions. I guess I don't have it up here. Okay, I wanted to go through what the 1099 K is, right? It used to be, this started in 2011, right? As well, people are selling stuff on eBay, and this was the excuse then, right? People are buying and selling things on eBay, and so we want to capture that, and they should report it. And everybody said, yeah, that makes sense. You should report it. And so they came up with this rule that said, if you do more than $20,000 in transactions and you have more than 200 transactions, well, how many people fit into that? Well, you must have been buying and selling, right, on eBay. And so maybe that makes sense. But now it's not $20,000, it's $600. And it's not 20 transactions or 200 transactions. It's one transaction. So you do one transaction for $3,000. Well, you're going to get a 1099-K. Well, that's not taxable money. How does the IRS know it's not taxable money? They don't know, right? And so until you tell them. So again, now that you have to keep records of every transaction that goes in and out of and then explain it to the IRS. So when they tell you, hey, this is not true, that everything's not going to, it's not every transaction, it's only lump sum at the end of the year. That's what's reported, but that's not how you're going to have to explain it. And you're going to have to explain it. I've said many people have gotten, many of my clients have gotten 1099 from their brokerage and say they sold, $50,000 in stocks. But those stocks cost them $60,000. They actually lost $10,000. But if they don't put the 1099 on their, report it, then the IRS is going to say, well, you made $50,000, and then they're going to tax you on the $50,000. And now you're going to have to object. And you're going to say, wait a minute, I lost money. This isn't taxable. You see, now this is where the problem comes in. And so that's where they start telling everybody, hey, it's about catching the cheaters. It's more than that. It's going through every one of our transactions. It's an invasion of all of our privacy. We're going to have to explain why it's not taxable. Don't worry, it's not taxable. That's not the issue. The issue is not paying taxes on taxable income, because we all know all income is taxable from whatever source. That's what the law says. All income is taxable from whatever source. So they're not changing the character of a taxable event. What they're doing is they're putting the onus on you to prove many events aren't taxable. And so that's where the problem comes in. It's the invasion of privacy and the reporting that lands on your shoulders. That's the objection. And it's the same with your bank account, right? Well, they only have to do now I got to tell you, the law has not been written yet. So we don't know what it's going to say. But generally, if you go to the American Families Plan, which is what I was talking about yesterday, and you read what their proposal is, and I tried to do that yesterday. The proposal says all inflows and outflows. Okay, it doesn't say all the inflow and outflow, the total. It doesn't say that. The proposal says all inflows and outflows should be reported. Now, will they just put one number in and send it to the IRS? Well, that might be. But if there's a question, then can't they go in and look at all of them to determine which ones are right and which ones are wrong? Or are they barred from looking at my bank statement? Well, no, we've just given them permission to look at our bank statements, right? And they got to look at or maybe the onus is on you now to show them your bank statements and say, well, look, this transaction, that was my mother. That's not taxable. Well, this transaction, that one might be taxable, but I already put it on my tax return. This was a gift. Oh, this was a friend sent me in. Oh, this one. And so you're going to have to go through each and every one of your transactions to substantiate why it isn't a taxable event. Because otherwise, how would the IRS know? And so I was speaking with someone about this, and they said, well, on my Venmo, I always put, well, this is a gift. Well, I don't think that's going to pass muster with the IRS to just say, well, that's what that says. It says it's a gift, so it must have been a gift. No, you have to have substantiation to prove it was a gift and that it wasn't taxable. Okay, so this is my objection. And it's not about them taxing taxable income. As I said, all income is taxable. We know that. Do some people put stuff in there that isn't that's probably taxable and they don't pay tax on it? Yeah, it probably happens. Again, at what cost are we going to gather everybody together and go after everybody for every dime? And so if I sell my skateboard to a neighbor, is that a taxable event? Or do I have to know what a taxable event is? Should I put that down? If he pays me on Zelle, do I have to report it? Well, yeah. Now, if my total transactions of the year is over $600, and if I use Zelle, then it probably is, right? What if I sell my bicycle or my Stratocaster guitar, and that thing's worth $800, and I sell it for $800? Is that a taxable event? I bought that guitar 40 years ago for $800. Is that a taxable event, or did I just sell an asset? That's without a taxable event. I don't know. Do you know? Actually, I do know. But do you know? Most people don't know, right? And so now you're going to have to explain it to the IRS. Well, I sold my guitar. Well, that's taxable. Well, unless I can prove what I paid for it. Well, I bought that guitar 40 years ago. How do I know I can't prove what I paid for it? Well, then it's taxable, isn't it? So this is the objection. And when these fact checkers like Verify, or here's another one. Let me find this other one I have up here. Oh, PolitiFact, right? When they come up with this, it's mostly false. Will the IRS track and see how they put that in quotes, every Venmo transaction? Fact checking claims on new financial reporting plans. Yes, actually they will have the bulk amount in every transactions involved. Okay, and that's the way I'm going to have to go about this. The American Rescue Plan Act, which Congress passed in March, has a provision that will require cash apps like Venmo, PayPal, and Zelle to file information reports on commercial transactions over $600. But see, here's the catch. What's a commercial transaction? So really what they're saying is every transaction, because every transaction might be a commercial transaction until I tell them otherwise. And so they kind of couch this. They got to blow over that. And then previously cash apps were required to report only business transactions of $20,000 for accounts with at least 200 separate payments in a calendar year. A separate Biden administration proposal concerns traditional bank accounts as well as cash apps. If implemented, it would require financial institutions to report the total amount of deposits and withdrawals from most bank accounts that exceed $600. The proposal doesn't track individual withdrawals, deposits, or transactions in bank accounts, or transactions or payments made on cash apps such as Venmo or PayPal, the Treasury Department said. They're being disingenuous. Wait, this is not actually this. It's technically true. It's like anytime the government tells you something, right? It's technically true. It's just not really true, right? And so this is where the problem comes in, and this is where the objection comes in, and this is why we all should object to this. And it's not about paying taxes on taxable income. It's about our privacy. It's about the complication of your life that they just did, because now they want every dime, and you're going to have to prove every dime is yours or it's theirs. And that's just the fact. And that's where we're going. And that's why I object. And that's why you should object. And that's why when Candace Owens says that, they call her mostly false. It's mostly true. And they use these caveats to get around it and say, well, that's just not true. They're exaggerating. It's not an exaggeration. Why? If it's, again, they passed this law in 2011 and they made it at $20,000. Why? Because everybody would have been up in arms. And now, well, they do it already. Well, no, it's at $20,000. I mean, most people don't have $20,000 on any of these, or 200 transactions, right? So not and 200 transactions. So, that's a great deal of money, $20,000. If you're going to dinner with everybody, you're probably never coming anywhere near $20,000, but you're certainly going over $600. And again, the onus is now on you. So this is what I wanted to talk about today. I have a lot more to say about this. And there's more in here. Every day, more comes out of these bills. And this, again, this was passed already. This is already law. We can't really object to this already. It's already there. And this is what's going to happen starting January 1st. This is what's going to happen. And you're going to be having to keep records of everything. There's an article in here about what you should do. 5 things to know about the IRS plan. I'm already over the 20-minute mark. I like to keep these around 15 to 20 minutes, and I'm already over. How Cash App works, we already know that. What does a new law actually say? And again, this is where they kind of fudge what it says. Oh, it's not everyone. The new rule only applies to business transactions. Yes, again, but what kind of business? What is a business transaction? The IRS will be sending out K-99 forms. If you receive more, yes, they will be sending out K-99 forms. If you sell something or provide services to someone, no. If you do anything through there with over $600, they want to know why. Okay, so this is just, again, and I don't know why these media outlets seem to cover for the government with these half truths. Business owners who use cash apps need to be vigilant. No matter how small your business might be, it is a good idea to report all income to the IRS. It's the law. It's not a good idea. It's a law. It's been the law forever. That's not changing that. If your income is fairly low, it's unlikely you will owe any taxes at all. But I have to prove it. It's not unlikely. It's just not unlikely. It's just not true. Okay? And so again, when they tell you it's not true, I'm telling you that what they're saying is not true. It's, again, Candace Owens' tweet, mostly true. And I just proved to you why it's mostly true. Okay, so always, again, these fact checkers are out, the media outlets seem to be on the government team. And they seem to be telling us what the government wants us to know. We all know that the government wants to take every dollar that we have. And it's up to us to fight to keep it. And they're making it, and they're taking away all of our weapons. Okay, so, and if you want, is that what we want in our government? Is that what we want our life to be? Is every stone unturned? I could talk about Gruden and a team and his emails from 10 years ago. It doesn't make any sense. Anyway, now my camera went out. But anyway, that's where we are. So thanks so much for joining us. I kind of ranted a little bit today, and I as is my want. So I won't. I will. I'm going to tell you about my book, Deal with Your IRS Problem Today. If you're fighting the IRS, I fight them every day. You want to learn how to fight the IRS? Get a copy of my book at freeirsbook.com. Deal with your IRS problem today at freeirsbook.com. Just send out a copy to somebody. And then, again, I'm going to ask you to like and share and subscribe. Like and subscribe this content because it's important. I don't know why the 6 is there. It must have hit the thing. But anyway, thanks so much for joining us. Tomorrow now is Friday. We do the Watch Talk Radio podcast at about 2 o'clock. Tomorrow I have the cannabis attorney on. You want to learn about cannabis and the law? Join us tomorrow, 2 o'clock at watchtalkradio.com or here, wherever you're watching us now. We're on those venues too. So let me get my outro ready, and then we can go. Thanks so much for your time, and I look forward to seeing you another time.